us to think about where we were when we started our journey together. I'll tell you, for me, I was kind of walking into a different stage of womanhood. I was walking into a different stage of understanding myself. I was walking into a different stage of hurt. I was walking into a different stage of forgiveness. I was walking into a different stage of learning how to communicate with myself better. And I feel like the people who have come along with me on my podcast journey have also been doing the same thing. This ain't your average healing chat. It's healing through conversations with me, Loveli Brown. Real talk, deep healing, zero fluff. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Healing Through Conversations podcast. Before we even start season 9, I want us to take a deep breath, right? I want us just to focus on being very present and where we are and being grateful that we've made it this far together and that we are really just getting a chance to come back and connect and say hello to each other, because I feel like when we are rushing through life, we miss so much that's going on. And I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this journey that we are on. And if you've made your way back to this sacred space, this safe space, this space where we are still fighting, we are still reaching, we are still choosing, I want you to understand that I don't take that lightly. Like you came back to listen to this voice. My God, I pray for you is what I say. Okay, so again, I'm your host, Loveli Brown. I'm a certified life, business, and entrepreneurial coach. I'm a mental health advocate in the most holistic way as I can be. I'm an author, and I am your sister and auntie in healing, right? When we are talking about 9 seasons of healing through conversations, that's how many conversations with so many beautiful people along the way, some tidbits. We've had moments where we almost cried, moments where we shouldn't have laughed, moments where we found joy and peace, moments where we said, hey, I don't really agree with that, but I'm willing to listen because I feel like it may be some truth in that. And that is why I truly love this podcast. It's evolved from a I need this to a what do we need podcast. And that is so super huge because we can get stuck in our own needs and we forget that other people are also going through so much in their lives. So again, I'm going to say that season 9, season 9, like, I'm gonna pat me on the shoulder. I'm gonna pat me on the shoulder because season 9, my podcast started back in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. I was uncertain about why the spirit was telling me to start a podcast of all things when I was on the internet some. Okay. And when I say some, I mean, I was posting pictures on Facebook about my children playing chess. And I was trying to figure out how to make my wig lay flat. All right. And, and now that I have a little bit of footing, because I'm still trying to figure out where to go. I'm still asking questions. I'm still looking to spirit, to joy, to fear, to tears, to relationships that I've developed over these years to figure out how can I create a better, larger, safe space for us to have these conversations. And I really wanted us to have just a little bit of everything in it. I feel like when we are connecting and healing through conversations, it can feel like you're talking to yourself. And podcasting isn't easy, particularly when you do solo podcasts, because you have to find that sweet spot for yourself. And sometimes you need like another person to be with you in order to do that. but I'm learning to sit with it. I'm learning to speak about the things that people who have asked me to speak about in private. I'm learning to have conversations about things that have personally affected me, but I'm also learning to have these healing conversations surrounding topics that we normally don't say out loud because it causes fear and it causes us to feel unworthy, and sometimes it causes us to feel disconnected. And I'm telling you that you feeling fearful, you feeling disconnected, you feeling unworthy, there's so many of us who have those moments in our lives, and when we talk about it, it connects us in a way that allows us to not only blossom, but for us to then go out and tell our stories, because the reason why you are her is because you told that story and somebody else saw that in you. So I, oh my gosh, season 9. Season 9. We are back together, baby. We are becoming joyful. We are becoming less afraid. We're becoming louder. We're becoming bolder. We're becoming more fruitful in all of these different spaces. I don't take that for granted. I am just, you know how they be like, in scene. I'm so excited. Come on, guys. Let's get ready for season 9. Ah! Are you still healing or are you settled into survival mode? That's what we're talking about today on the Healing Through Conversations podcast. Grab your tea or something stronger and let's listen. Let's go. Okay, beauty. So the road behind us, honoring where we've been. In order for you to even know where you're going, a lot of the times you have to know where you've been so that you can learn from those things. You didn't fail, you learned hard lessons or you learned soft lessons, maybe some medium lessons, but we learn lessons. And I wanted to start off with definitions, right? Because that's what I do here. I love to give you guys a lot of mental health tools for your mental health toolbox. And I don't just talk about concepts. I really like to name them. I like to understand them. And then we can apply those things to our lives. That's how our call to actions work around here. The word that we're going to be really defining today is becoming. I'm so excited about us, the journey that we are going through. Now, becoming is from an old English word, Becuman, right? Becoming. I said becoming. So the word is becoming from the old English word become, spelled Becuman. It means to come into existence, to grow to be, not to arrive, not to achieve, but to continuously grow into. And I want to be really clear about this. Becoming is not a destination, it's not a monolith, it's not one of those things that we can tangibly really touch, because you are going to continuously become something as you grow. The longer you live, the more you become whoever that version of you is, right? And it's just a really great way to look at the direction of your life, right? Not to arrive at healed, because we don't heal, we are healing, right? We're healing through conversations. Did you guys know that I started this podcast in 2021 during the pandemic? Didn't want to do it, but I had a spiritual awakening and I said, I'm going to do it, because every time I don't listen to the spirit, it knocked my glasses sideways. I said, okay. But this means that we are moving towards wholeness. Every day, we're trying to figure out what whole looks like for us on that day. And I wanted to do some research about my past podcast, right? I've had the honor of interviewing more than 80 people, right? I've had 80 people over 8 seasons, and I am going into my 9th season. This is season 9. And I've had people who were survivors of infidelity, people who were mothers of children they lost, people who were mothers who were trying to rebuild after bankruptcy, divorce, addiction, abandonment, women who had to grieve their old selves to make room for who they were becoming. I have been all of those women in different aspects, right? And so for every conversation that I got to have these moments where we were allowed to cry together, or we were allowed to have a breakthrough together, where we were allowed to have conversations we would never have had before. And we got to start laying down stones so that we could be on the road that we are on together now, right? And I had to realize that we never were starting over. We were just building on what we already had, what already cost us something, right? And I feel like I was having this conversation with my husband, and he was like, everything sounds good, but you say the word right a lot. And I said, I don't want to have a podcast where I have to mute myself the same way I don't want to have a guest on my podcast who feels like they need to mute themselves. And so everything that you are, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the things that may not be um correct, the things that may be correct, whoever you are in that moment is who I want you to be when you come to this podcast. But in particular, that's who I want you to be when we have a conversation. And that's who I try to be when I'm having this conversation. So when we are building on things that have already cost us something, it means bringing your fullest self into the conversation, because that full self person at that moment has lessons that it can teach other people. And that is why we are focusing on not only honoring where we've been, but we are looking at what we're building. I also want to take a moment to just say that this is not just a podcast, right? We are personalities, we are human beings with feelings, emotions, desires. Some of us desire brownies, other desire some kinky things that, we're going to talk about during this podcast season. I am so excited about that. I mean, who isn't excited about bzzz? I'm just saying. And I want us to think about where we were when we started our journey together, right? I will tell you, for me, I was kind of walking into a different stage of womanhood. I was walking into a different stage of understanding myself. I was walking into a different stage of hurt. I was walking into a different stage of forgiveness. I was walking into a different stage of learning how to communicate with myself better. And I feel like the people who have come along with me on my podcast journey have also been doing the same thing, because I know that it can be very difficult to have some of these large conversations and feel like, what the heck are we talking about? Because I planned on being happy today. Because healing is not, it ain't practical, and it ain't always beautiful, right? In order to heal, you have to disconnect yourself from a lot of things, right? You have to remove a lot of the arteries that were pumping all of this negative energy into you. And you have to figure out how to reboot your own spirit and start over with these abstract conversations, with these moments where you don't particularly know if it's going to ever get better. You're having conversation with people who you hope not only hear you, they can help affirm where you are in your space, but they also challenge you to have these deeper conversations. You hope that you are in a space with people who create safe moments for you to feel your emotions and live out loud. And that's why I created this conversation, this podcast and these conversations, because I know where I've been. I know I've been the woman in the closet on the floor crying, not understanding who she was, where she was going, what was actually happening in her life. And then watching myself become someone who started talking about her story and seeing how many people connected with that story, right? And so I want us to not only understand that we are allowed to be on this beautiful healing journey, but we don't have to be small while we're doing it. We don't have to always be graceful while we're doing it. It doesn't always have to be pretty while we're doing it. But if we can, that's what we talk about on this channel, babes. We learn how to do some things so we feel good from the inside out and the outside in. You know what I'm saying? Why haven't you followed us yet? You need to be following us. We are Lovely Esteem. Lovely Esteem. Healing through conversations. Why are we healing through conversations? Because life can hurt sometimes, but it's also joyful. And that thing that you're embarrassed to talk about, that's the thing that's going to set you free. That thing that you're hiding in your closet that you don't want to communicate because it happened to you, and how dare it happen to me? I was smarter than that, right? When all of us go through so much in our lives, there are moments in our lives that we will never forget, moments in our lives that we wish we could bury. But those are the moments that create connection. Those are the moments that create wisdom. Those are the moments that build backbones. It builds lessons. And I'm not saying that they're easy, baby. You know how many times I done took a wig off and cried? You know how many times I done took this bra off and laid down flat on these nips? Okay, just tears aplenty. How many times I didn't cried off eyelashes? But there's been so many times that I've had joyful moments where I laughed until my throat hurt, where I laughed and cracked my lip because it was dry and I should have licked my lips before I started laughing. There are moments where I snorted because I was like, oh my God, it caught me off guard. There are moments where I sat down and had these spiritual connections with not only myself, but the energy that was coming into me and the energy that was being poured into me. How many times I've had conversations with people who've poured into me and allowed me to pour into them. That is why this is so important, right? It's not just a community. It is a community where we bond, where we connect, where we listen, where we heal, where we talk about these things, where sometimes you may not be willing to have the conversation, but you send me a message and say, hey, Lovely, I need you to talk about this thing because it's bothering me and I need some perspective on it, right? That's what a podcaster is here to do. Not just always shock value. It's We're here to have these conversations that pull us together, that connect us, that build community in us, that allow us to see us, right? And it can be niche down into me being a Black woman. It could be niche down into me being a corporate baddie. It could be niche down into me being an entrepreneur, being a coach, being a host, being a author, being a mom, a wife, a grandma, a sister, a daughter, right? An auntie, like being all of these things. But really, it could just boil down to me being a woman who wants to see other women win, right? And so I beg you to connect with us, follow us, stay with us, enjoy with us, learn with us, heal with us, cry with us, scream with us, baby, laugh with us, because I love a good laugh. And remember, we are learning how to articulate our feelings, wants, needs, and desires so we can better advocate for ourselves and the people that we love. Okay, so let's talk about season 9, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, because I've really prayed over this season. I initially wanted to set out for a couple seasons and work on something different. But then I started dreaming about the season and I started preparing because I had dreamt about it. And I said, you know what? I'm not fully ready, but I've never fully been ready. And I feel like when the spirit tells you to move, when you move, I move just like that. That's what I do. And the theme for this whole season will be still here, still healing, still becoming, because there's so many of us that are still here, still healing, and still becoming. And the still is very intentional because what you've been through in your past can convince you that you're done with everything, that there's no reason to move forward. But then you realize, I've still made it this far. I've still made it this far. And healing wasn't just for other people, it was for you. It gave you more time. It may have given you more money. It may have given you more support. It may have given you more history to talk about and to celebrate and to collaborate on and with, and to have these communities and build communities and um have these different frameworks where you get together and you enjoy each other's company, because healing can be lonely, but not with the right people, right? Sometimes, even with the right people, it can still feel a little lonely, but you guys, y'all start working together, y'all start connecting together, y'all start building together, and you talk from a place of healing, not a place of trauma. And that is the difference in healing through conversations. You got to work on getting to a place where you are connecting through the healing process and not through the trauma that you've been through, because you can get stuck in that trauma bond, and that will be where you guys stay. But when you ascend to that healing bond, it transforms everything that you guys touch. It just becomes a whole different space. And I'm not saying that it's just this like everglow elated space that you're in, but you guys are going to want to see each other grow. You're going to want to hold each other accountable for what's going on. You're going to be assertive in the way you love each other and care about each other. You're going to be very conscious and present about the communications that you guys are having together. And that doesn't mean that we don't relapse, because we really do. Because sometimes you can feel stagnant in your life, but having that steady conversation, having steady friendship, having steady community, having a steady frame of faith, having a steady frame of growth, that is a beautiful that is a beautiful moment to really just connect with each other and love on each other. So I feel like every year or every season, because sometimes I'll do 2 seasons in a year, sometimes I've done 3 seasons in a year. It just depends on how I really follow my spirit, and when it's time to stop, I just stop and I take a moment and then I start back over. But I want us in this particular moment to talk about womanhood. I want us to talk about identity. I want us to talk about what it's like not only being someone's mother or somebody's wife or someone's caretaker, which are roles that we do assimilate to as women, right? But I also want us to have conversations about breaking stigmas and challenging the silence that we have in our communities and in our homes, and making sure that we understand what therapy is. Like, understanding that therapy isn't like a white luxury. It's a human need. We need to speak with each other. It's a human right to have conversations and understand where you are in your journey, where you are in your hurt, where you are in your trauma, where you are in your celebration, because therapy is not just for trauma. Sometimes going to therapy is to help you declutter your mind so that you can make better, more cohesive decisions for yourself. That is something that we aren't taught. We have to have conversations about those things. We're going to talk about grief. I talk about grief in every season. It can come from divorce. It can come from separation. It could come from you realizing that your life isn't going to play out the way you had it in your head. A lot of us have these moments where we forget to forgive ourselves for what we've been through, and we try to forgive other people, and then we hold on to the debt ourselves, and then we try to figure out why we are still stuck in the same place, why we keep dating the same personality with a different face in a different car, why we keep showing up on the same block, right, even though it's a different house with a different address, right? We trying to figure those things out, and we're trying to understand what it's like to not only walk through fear with faith, but sometimes understand that in that fear, you have to build more faith in yourself so that fully you fully walk into a situation with your eyes wide open. And that does not negate the fact that we're human and sometimes we see things that are really not there, but that's why you have your community. to come back to and be like, girl, I almost fell for it. I almost fell all the way in. It wasn't going to be good. It wasn't going to be good, but I did. I did. And I'm inviting so many beautiful guests on the podcast this time to have more conversations. I'm inviting coaches and therapists and authors and advocates, women who have lived lives and they survived it as beautifully as they could. And I am excited to have them have these conversations with you because I want to talk to some women who were like, I want to talk about perimenopause. No, I want to talk about what it's like to masturbate for the first time. No, I want to talk about what it is to find God for the first time. No, I want to know what it is to talk about. I want to talk to people about what it's like to be in an interracial relationship. I want to talk about what it's like to not want any children. I want to talk about what it's like to get married again. Like, I was like, we gonna come on here and talk about everything y'all want to talk about because I'm nosy. I want to know what you know. I want to know what turns you on so I can be all that and more. No, 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 no. Let me see. Let me do that. I want to know what turns you on so I can be all that and more. I want to know what makes you frown so I can always be the girl that makes you smile. So for season 9, we're going to do a lot of framework coaching and educational segments throughout the podcast, right? We're going to have assignments that we really work on. We're going to figure out how to stay connected. I'm working on building a community because I really think that we need a space where we can not only stay connected, but we can bridge together. We can have these genuine conversations in safe spaces and give ourselves homework that we can actually do that doesn't always require us to write everything down. Sometimes it's just things to think about. But we're going to always have questions. And so I am going to give you your first assignment for season 9, right? We're going to write down answer to these questions. I know I said wasn't going to have you write, but you know what? You can use your voice to memo. You can just think about these things in your head. You don't have to write down everything, but do your homework. I'm doing my homework. You're doing your homework. Is all I'm telling you. Did I tell you guys that I have books on Amazon? Okay. I want you to go out. I'm going to put my books right here. I implore you to journal. It really helps you organize your thoughts. It helps you understand your feelings. It helps you it helps you make your wants tangible. And it helps you figure out the desires that you have that are good for you and the desires that you have that are bad for you. If you are lactose intolerant and you are drinking milk and your body is suffering, not the best decision, right? That's the desire you have to drink that milk. Ain't your best decision. However, if you are, that's not what I want to say. Shit, that's bad. That's bad. Okay, so this week's assignment, I want you to write down these questions. I know I said you didn't have to write it down, but you know you can use voice memo, you can swipe it, you can speak it, you can do all the things. You can talk to text. We got it. What does still becoming mean to you personally right now? Not generally, but be very specific in where you are. Where are you still healing? What is still unfinished? Now, I don't want you to judge the answer. I just want you to write it. Remember, we are writing down information in spaces where we feel safe. We want to make sure that our identifiable information is not in there because we don't want anybody to be able to use those things against us. I am really big on advocating for ourselves and understanding that everybody does not mean us good. Number 2, identify one person in your life, a friend, a therapist, a coach, a sister, who can witness your season 9, someone who will check in on you and hold you accountable for your healing. That's why I'm building this community out so that we will be able to do that with each other. And number 3, I want you to share this episode with one woman who needs to hear it. You know, the one woman who you guys keep pretending like y'all not having the same conversation over and over about that traumatic thing that keep happening to y'all, and then y'all just come back together, and then y'all try to heal together, but then y'all go through the trauma together, and then you figure it out like together, right? But you're doing it together. So both of y'all gonna listen to this conversation and let each other know that you are here to be community and that we are staying connected. Remember, this is called the Healing Through Conversations podcast. I want you guys to follow me on all of the major platforms that keep you connected to podcasts. So it could be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen. I am so grateful for you. And if you could leave a review about what you love about the show and the things that you want me to work on and or talk about on the show, that would be so wonderful. You can also find me at Lovely Esteem on Instagram, TikTok, Lemonade, LinkedIn, YouTube, HerTube, WeTube. We all scream for ice cream. I also do coaching, providing tools, affirmations, and behind the scene content that I'm working on so that you guys can see. That'll be on YouTube. But if you need anything further, please follow me at www.lovelyesteem to learn about my coaching systems, any speaking engagements I'm working on, the books that I have, and any workshops that I am coming up with. I am excited to be with you guys and to have these conversations. My goodness, we have so much going on. And I'm excited. I know I keep breathing like I'm running, but I feel like my mind is running because there's so much that I want to talk to you guys about. I feel like I need to start going live, is what I really feel like I need to do, so we can have some one on one conversations where we are connected closely and we're getting to be good with each other. So I want you to remember that we are learning how to articulate our feelings, wants, needs, and desires so we can better advocate for ourselves and the people that we love. We are learning how to heal from the outside in and the inside out because we are learning how to articulate but not accommodate. And remember, beauty does have a backbone and she looks like anything that you want her to look like. Y'all be good. I'll talk to you soon. Lovely out. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you found some healing, connection, and joy. Until next time, bye, loves.